Morning, everybody, or hello. I want to talk to everybody about we're going to go over nutrition and special diets real quick today. I know you've read some about it. We've had some. We've had some questions about it. We're going to go through it one more time because it seems to be the part overall, and you had reading over it that everyone kind of has some significant issues with. So hopefully, you did your reading, you did well on your quiz, and this will just help fill in any blanks you were missing. So I'm going to quickly go through and kind of skip through the learning outcomes. I will give you the address for this slide player presentation, and you can look at those. But let's talk about nutrition. Nutrition is basically what the body does with the food that you eat and with all of the things that you take into your body, not just food, but fluids as well. It's what your body does with it and how it makes the body function, or how it gets rid of what you eat or drink and you can't process. So there are 5 parts of nutrition, or 5 parts of the digestion process, and that's intake, digestion itself. That's actually consuming the food. Digestion is actually goes from mastication all the way through breaking it down. Mastication would be the actual chewing of the food, and that's where carbohydrate process breakdown starts with saliva in the mouth. You start to break down simple carbs in the mouth. It goes down the esophagus through peristalsis, which is just basically the movement of the food down the esophagus. No digestion takes place there. Food and nutrition and liquids go into the stomach, where it is broken down even further into a substance called chyme, and it's about a milky, thick, milky or heavy cream kind of consistency. Once that's done, goes into the small intestines where most of the absorption takes place. We start to break proteins down in the stomach because of all the stomach acid. And then it goes into the small intestines for most of the absorption. Water takes place in the large intestines. Then the metabolism takes place when it goes out into the bloodstream, and we utilize what we can. We use it for energy, we use it for repair, we use it for whatever process we need through metabolism, and then we eliminate what we can't use. That would be things like sweat, through bowel movements, and through urination. So, medical assistant, what's important for you to understand is understand the relationship between diet and health. You need to understand the signs of illness related to diet. So, what happens when you are deficient in some type of nutrient, whether it's proteins, vitamins, minerals, fluids? What does the body look like, and what can we do to educate patients on that? That's the medical assistant's role, to understand that there are specific types of nutrients that are more important to certain illnesses, and there are things that in certain illnesses people need to avoid. So the role of diet and health. Food is the body's source of nutrition that's needed to function properly. If we don't eat, the body starts to break its own self down. Certain foods are needed to maintain or regain health depending on what's going on. For example, if someone has a wound, it's very important that they take in plenty of water, plenty of protein, plenty of vitamin C, and plenty of zinc. Those promote wound healing. So that's just an example. And then some conditions, like people who have heart issues, they require special diets. Maybe it's a low sodium, low cholesterol, low fat diet. So it's important that we understand what those are, because the role of a medical assistant sometimes is that coaching. The doctor will order a diet, but you're responsible for educating them sometimes, or giving them a supplemental education on it. Medical teams that we always work together to ensure and understand the role of diet and health. So sometimes patients get referred out to dietitians, They get sometimes physical therapy also helps educate. Sometimes home health. So it's a group effort when it comes to everyone working with the patient on how important a proper diet is for a patient. I'm sorry. Registered dietitian, like I said, they design specific diets for therapeutic for therapy for patients that are realistic. We can tell a patient to take a 2-gram sodium diet, and we can give them some ideas on um, how to decrease sodium in the diet, such as making sure that they don't, if they were to buy canned vegetables, that they wash those canned vegetables before they cook them. To buy fresh or frozen vegetables and look at the back for sodium content. To not buy a lot of frozen or processed food because sodium is used as a means um, of preserving. So, but a registered dietitian will actually make a meal by meal, day by day plan for them. Daily energy requirements. So the body has to have nutrients just to be able to function. If we don't eat, then the body, like I said, it starts to break its own self down. To provide energy, there are specific things we must take in. Carbohydrates are generally our main source of energy. To build and repair and maintain the body's tissue, we need proteins. And to regulate body processes, we need things like vitamins, minerals, and other essential amino acids, and we need a certain amount of lipids. So daily energy requirements for metabolism, the sum of all cellular processes that build, maintain, and supply energy for living tissue. That is what the daily energy requirements for metabolism are. It's what we need to think, for the heart to work, for all of the body processes to work, and for tissue to maintain health. There are phases of metabolism. You need to know the difference between anabolism and catabolism. In anabolism, nutrients are changed into complex substances that are used to build body tissue. So they're changed. In anabolism, nutrients change into complex substances. In catabolism, they're actually broken down into smaller pieces. So an example of anabolism in the body would be when, when the body takes protein and breaks it and changes it into, like when the body takes in sunlight and it produces vitamin D. So that would be how it would change one substance into another to be used to build body tissue. How the body makes vitamin D. Catabolism would be like when we eat proteins and we break it down into smaller amino acids, or when we eat complex carbohydrates and we break those down into a more simple sugar. Metabolism is definitely affected by our age, our weight, our activity, our state of health. There are many factors that affect our metabolism. A young child, they take in, even though they take in fewer calories, their nutrition comes in the form of formula or breast milk, and they utilize those calories just to function and grow. When a child is a small child, or no longer an infant, but a small child on the way up to being a teenager, their metabolism is much faster. Especially when they're growing, they will eat more frequently, they'll be more hungry, as long as they are at a healthy weight and maintaining a healthy activity level, and they don't have any health issues like thyroid issues affect our metabolism. People who yo-yo diet, people who will fast and then eat more, or people who don't maintain a healthy diet. All of that affects their metabolism and can affect their weight for sure. Activity, the more active we are, the more calories we need. Now, take this for example. Say that your basic metabolic rate, your BMR, and that means BMR means how many calories you need to survive if you did not move off of the couch. So say your BMR is 1,500 calories, but you play basketball. You only really need 500 more calories to function, to maintain your practice and to stay healthy and to play your games and things like that. So that would mean you would need around 2,500 2,000 calories a day. Whereas people who are professional swimmers that swim or are professional athletes who are active and they're practicing 8 hours a day for their sport, they may need 3 or 4,000 calories a day. So, what is a calorie? Calorie is what we measure food in. It's really called kilocalories, and that's how much energy a food can produce. So, different types of food have different calorie counts. So, for about the amount of energy, and what a calorie is the amount of energy the body needs to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water to 1 degree Celsius. That's what a calorie is. So 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree. So like 1 gram of carbs has about 4 calories in it. And it's used to measure the energy expenditure during activity process. So the more active we are, which raises our body temperature and it increases our circulation, it increases it increases the amount of calories we need to metabolize or break down to be used as food. Now, anything excess that people intake. So say I need 1,500 calories a day to maintain my current body weight. Anything over that 1,500 calories that I eat a day, it becomes stored fat. Stored fat, we do need a small amount of stored fat just for body processes like hormone production and things like that. But anything over 10% body fat is you move into that category of being overweight or considered obese. We've talked about BMI before. That's your body mass index. Women's body mass index should be between about 18 and 25 for a healthy rate. Between 25 and 30 is overweight, and above 35 is considered obese. So we have to think about those things in consideration with our patients. Counting calories of food that we eat helps us determine how much we take in, or helps a patient determine how much food they need to take in to maintain or to lose weight. So if I needed 1,500 calories a day to maintain a body weight, in order to lose weight, I may need to eat 1,200 calories a day. We never want a patient to get below 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day, because then their body goes into starvation mode and it actually holds on to body fat. So, what do we know about the role of health in the body? Food is the source of nutrition the body needs to function properly. Sometimes people need special diets to maintain or regain health. What's the difference between anabolism and catabolism? Anabolism changes a nutrient. Catabolism breaks it down into something smaller that's more usable. Okay, so why do we need nutrients? We need nutrients for energy, growth, repair, and basic processes. So when we think, most of you guys don't think about growth the way that I think about growth right now. Because growth isn't just getting taller. Growth is also making new body cells. So every day, our skin, our hair, our nails grow. but also we have to reproduce new cells because cells wear out, break down. We have to make new blood cells, so that's all growth. It's needed for repair for things like stretched muscles, torn muscles, cuts, fractures, anything that might happen to our body. And then we need nutrients for basic processes, and that's thinking. You have to have the right amount of nutrition or the right kind of nutrition for your brain to work properly, for your organ systems to work properly. So those are those basic processes that keep us functioning. Nutrients are provided by some main categories: proteins, carbohydrates, fiber, lipids, vitamins, minerals, and waters. So, water is one of the most important nutrients simply because our body is made up of 70% water. So, we need to make sure we maintain water effectively. Proteins give us the body to repair and to make new cells. You guys remember from back in biology when you learned about RNA and DNA and how important proteins are in that replication process. Carbohydrates are our main source of energy. Fiber is important because it helps our body. It helps our body's digestion all the way through elimination. Lipids are important, especially healthy lipids are important for brain function, for body protection, body warmth. Vitamins and minerals are important for hormone and other body processes. Energy is provided by carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates is our main source of energy. Proteins can be used, and here's what happens when someone has a poor diet. The body will break down stored fats, but sometimes when we cut down calorie count below 1,000 calories, our body will actually break down its own proteins to use as energy because it can more quickly break down proteins than fats. Breaking down stored fats takes work. The body has to work hard to do that. So it will break down proteins when it needs a quick source of energy first. When we think about proteins in reference to our body, our organs are a protein. Our muscle are protein. So it'll break down muscle sometimes without proper nutrition before it will fats. So let's talk about proteins. Their functions are to build and repair body cells and tissues, to help maintain water balance. It's for antibody and disease resistance. So proteins are a big part of our immune system. And they also help us maintain our muscle volume. Muscle volume helps us maintain body heat. So oddly enough, people who are obese or overweight tend to be much colder, tend to have a lower body temperature than someone who has a lower percent body fat and more muscle mass, because muscle needs a whole lot more heat, or produces a whole lot more heat. So 10 to 20% of your total calorie intake per day should be from protein. You're going to see and you're going to hear about all kinds of diets that are high protein. Right now, one of the biggest diets in the adult world is the keto diet. It is a high fat, high protein diet. The bad thing about that, the high fat diet actually is not good for the body because you're not getting the other nutrients you need. You're not getting enough fiber, enough carbohydrates. You're not getting enough other nutritional elements to maintain a healthy body. So 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. So if we don't have enough proteins, we do have weight loss, but we fall into a category of malnutrition. When we fall into a category of malnutrition, our body will stop losing that initial weight and start holding on to body fat and just break down its own protein when it needs it. We have a higher risk of infection. We also have difficulty replicating new cells or cells replicating appropriately. Also, a low volume, not enough protein causes definite fatigue. So we have complete and incomplete, or complete proteins, or essential, and then we have essential, and that break down into essential and non-essential amino acids. Um, the body has 9 essential amino acids that it is unable to make. We must take those from a food source. So that would be from meats, low fat or skim milk. Those essential amino acids we cannot produce. Definitely in the young are arginine, histidine, excuse me, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, um, methionine, phenylalanine, uh, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. Now, things like phenylalanine, we don't need a lot of that, but if you ever drink diet soda, it has a lot of phenylalanine. We need a little, not a lot. Things like tryptophan. Tryptophan comes from eating turkey. Tryptophan also makes you a little tired when you eat it. So by eating lean meats, beef, chicken, fish, low fat, and skim milk, they give us those essential amino acids that our body cannot produce on its own. And those are basically amino acids that we need. Incomplete or non-essential amino acids. If we lacking one or more essential amino acids can cause issues. Some plants are a source of that. So people who are vegans, vegans, they need to be sure that they eat the right combination of foods to ensure that they get all of their essential amino acids. So that would be things like eating rice and beans together, or corn and beans together. There are ways that they can eat those, but it's important that we know that someone who is a vegan, we have to help them pay close attention to and ensure that they are getting all of the appropriate nutrition, because they don't intake any kind of meat, dairy, eggs, cheese, anything like that. So carbohydrates. Carbohydrates provide about 2/3 or the predominant amount of our daily energy. They help provide fat. Provide heat. They help metabolize fat. They preserve protein for use for other energy production. So carbohydrates, if we don't take enough carbohydrates in, we have to break down proteins for energy. When we get in the correct amount of proteins and carbohydrates, it helps make that balance for our metabolism, for energy purposes. And trust me, if you guys remember, hopefully you guys remember back from biology when they talked to you about cellular respiration and how much ATP the cell needs to function, to do all the things a normal cell would need to do. So 50 to 60% of our total calorie intake should come from carbohydrates. So about 20% come from proteins. About 50% come from carbohydrates. So and as a protein, carbohydrates, 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories. Now, to maintain a healthy diet, an adult should have about 40 to 60 grams of protein a day and about 60 to 100 grams of carbohydrates to maintain a healthy diet. Deficiency of carbohydrates can cause weight loss, protein loss, and fatigue. Now, remember that we saw fatigue with protein loss as well, with inadequate protein intake. So we need to remember how important protein and carbohydrates are. Weight loss, sometimes we do instruct patients to cut their carbohydrates back to about 40 to 60 carbohydrates for someone who would be obese. We don't want them to cut them completely out, because then the body starts to break down protein. Um, it, and then if we eat more carbohydrates, if we eat more than 60 to 100 grams of carbohydrates a day, then we're basically turning that into stored fat. Stored fat is not something our body needs an excessive amount of. Um, so things that are carbohydrates, simple sugars such as fruits, some vegetables, milk with whole milk, and table sugar. Those are simple sugars that are in. If you look at packaging on diets, on foods, if you just turn around and look at the label, then you're going to see that almost every food in the U.S., unless it says no sugar, not no sugar added, just no sugar, it's going to have table sugar in it. That's a refined sugar. I know that in a lot of other countries, they don't use um, table sugar in products. They use cane sugar. They use unprocessed sugar in a lot of products. But we use a lot of simple table sugar to add to flavor or to add flavor to things. So a lot of products, if we're trying to teach patients to cut back on carbohydrates, one of the things we tell them is fruits and vegetables are the best source of carbohydrates. Milk is a good source of carbohydrate, but you want to get a skim or 1 or 2% milk. Also, we want to have them cut back on table sugar for sure. Complex carbohydrates, these are the most important things that they eat. Simple sugars start to break down immediately when you eat them. Complex carbohydrates, those are long chains of sugar units put together, and they're called polysaccharides. Polysaccharides, your body actually has to break it down. It has to expend some energy before it can actually break it down. So their starches are the major source of energy that we get, and fiber is the other. Fiber is a good source of protein or a good source of carbohydrate that helps you actually feel more full. It also helps have a more effective bowel movement. Starches like rice, pasta, wheat breads, those are things that whole wheat products, whole grain products, those are things the body actually has to expend calories to break them down. They're more a longer chain. So the body has to do some processing to actually produce them or to make them work. Once again, excess amounts of this can be stored in the liver or the muscle cells as glycogen, and then it can be converted into stored fat. So no matter what type of carbohydrates, if we're eating more than 60 to 100 grams of carbohydrates a day, the body is turning that into stored fat. Fiber. Fiber does not supply energy or heat, but it does increase softness to or bulk to stools. It helps us absorb water and toxin, and it decreases the rate carbohydrates break down and are absorbed. So, when we look at the back of a package that has the nutritional value on the back, especially for a diabetic has to be concerned with net carbs. So net carbs would be things like how they would figure their net carbs to determine their insulin. So if they're insulin dependent diabetic, if they look at the back of a package and say they're looking at whole grain bread that's a sugar-free whole grain bread. Well, that sugar-free whole grain bread, it may have 10 grams of carbs, but it'll have 4 grams of fiber. So the net carbs for that diabetic, what we would teach them is that really there are 6 grams of carbs they need to adjust for in their diet. So that absorption rate, what it does is it slows down that absorption rate of those carbohydrates for that diabetic, which means it's not going to initially right away shoot their sugar up like eating normal white bread. We need about 20 to 30 grams of fiber a day to make sure that we have appropriate digestion. So fiber is very important for digestion of carbohydrates and for the breakdown and elimination of substances. There are types of fiber. They're soluble. Those are absorbed fluids that swell when we eat them. So sometimes when we eat certain types of fiber, when we add fluid to that, it bulks it up. It makes our stomach feel more full. Fiber helps also lower bad cholesterol. It helps blood sugar maintain. So like I was talking about with that sugar-free whole grain bread that had 10 grams of carbs per slice, but 4 grams of protein, it actually lowers how quickly it will shoot up their blood sugar, or it will help maintain a more even blood sugar. It also slows down the absorption of some foods. So sometimes people have disorders where they can't have as much fiber because they already have absorption issues in their digestive system. And then there are insoluble. So insoluble proteins promote regular bowel movement. So sometimes people will take things like Metamucil or other fiber supplements that actually help them regulate bowel movements, and that's its main purpose for them. Lipids are a concentrated source of energy. 1 gram of lipids or 1 gram of fats is about 9 calories. Now, see, that's a significantly higher calorie intake, so we want to have lower amounts of fats. Carbohydrates and proteins have the same amount of calories per gram. They come in the form of triglycerides. Those are simple lipids. Triglycerides are about 95% of the dietary intake that we should take in every day. Cholesterol should be about 5%. And cholesterol is a very complex compound of lipids. It's a long chain. Now, the thing about cholesterol is not always bad. We need a certain amount of cholesterol, that 5% of cholesterol. We need that every day so that we can maintain appropriate hormone levels. We can't produce hormones, and hormones regulate all body processes without some cholesterol in the body. It's necessary for steroids and other hormones that the body needs to function to be made. So we do need some cholesterol. Its function is to provide a concentrated energy source. So we do need some cholesterol and some lipids to maintain cushion for our bones, cushion for our organs, and also for that hormone production. It helps transport fat-soluble vitamins. So in a minute, when we talk about vitamins, you're going to talk about we're going to talk about water and fat-soluble vitamins. Without lipids, we can't get those vitamins where they need to go. We do need it some for insulation in the body, just for normal organ protection and protection of our body. Also, fats make us feel full. Also, fats give certain flavors to food that we're used to tasting. Now, there are different types of fats. Saturated fats are the primary form of animal. So that's basically what we think at saturated fats are what we think of when we eat meats. Those are primarily from animal source. So like beef, chicken, poultry, fish, they all have some form of saturated fat. And you can tell what that looks like when it's at room temperature, it's solid. So any of you that have ever watched your family or have ever cooked bacon, this is an example because I love bacon. When you cook bacon, it cooks the fat, it renders fat out into the bottom of the pan. Take that bacon, you put it on a paper towel, you drain it, you eat it. But if you leave the skillet on the stove, once it cools down, that fat becomes becomes a solid. And that is a saturated fat. Some other things like butter has a saturated fat, is a saturated fat. You can buy products in the store like lard, that's animal fat. Ghee is butter fat. So those are things that are saturated fats. And I am so sorry. I did not mean to do that. It went down to my list of slides below. Okay. Trans fats are things we don't want in our diet, or we do not want these in our diet at all. Trans fat, the FDA says we do not need them. They are hydrogenated vegetable oils. Basically, what a hydrogenated vegetable oil is they have added fat back into the vegetable oil. So it's not just like an olive oil, it's literally vegetable oil that they have added other lipids too. They are not good for you. They cause clogged arteries. They cause tons of different cardiovascular issues. Unsaturated fat. So these are things that maintain a liquid at room temperature. There are polysaturated and there are polysaturated and monosaturated. So a polysaturated fat would be a fat that tends to lower blood cholesterol, those unsaturated fats. An example of a monosaturated fat would be things like olive oil, cashew nuts, avocados. Those are examples. Examples of polysaturated fat would be cooking oils made from sunflower oil, safflower oil, peanut oil. Those are polysaturated. Poly means multiple and mono means one. So that would, like olive oil, it's only made from the oil of olives. Avocado oil is only made from, and it's a smaller chain. Poly unsaturated would be a longer chain of lipids. Cholesterol, so fat related to substances that the liver produces. Cholesterol basically comes from how liver production or fat breakdown in the liver. Most of the cholesterol that we intake comes from an animal-based product, which would be like milk, eggs, cheese, and also things like just regular meat. Cholesterol is essential to health, so it's essential for structural production of steroid hormones like corticosteroids that we need. It also is essential for and sunlight are essential for production and absorption of vitamin D. It's a component of bile. We do need that to help break down fats. And cholesterols are important for cell membrane, for transportation and other things like that. Hopefully you remember back to biology, and some of you had anatomy when we talked about the cellular membrane and the cholesterols that are on there to help grab nutrients. So cholesterols are important. There are different types of cholesterol. HDL HDL and LDL are the two types of cholesterol we're used to hearing. But we have to think about lipid levels in the blood. We need to maintain a healthy lipid level, which an overall cholesterol level should be less than 200. When someone's cholesterol gets above 200, things like heart disease, stroke, and peripheral vascular disease can develop. And we need to know that these lipoproteins that help carry lipids through the body, the important ones are high density lipids or HDLs. Those are considered our good cholesterol. Those are the cholesterol that our body needs to function. Low density lipids are considered bad cholesterol. They make a patient more at risk for heart disease. Even though they carry cholesterol to the liver, they actually can clog up those low density cholesterol or low density lipids can collect in the vessels and cause blockages. High density or HDL, high density lipids, they are used more for And they tend to not clog in those vessels. Vitamins are very important to the body to maintain for growth and maintenance of health, to prevent infection, to help the body repair, to help the body utilize other nutrients that it takes in, and to assist in enzyme activities in the body. Vitamins are organic substances that the body needs. They're absorbed through the digestive tract. So all vitamins are absorbed through the digestive tract. There are two types. There are water soluble and fat soluble. So water soluble vitamins, they're not stored in the body. If you get too much vitamin C, which is one of the water soluble vitamins, the body will just get rid of that through urine. Other water soluble vitamins are vitamin B1, which is thiamine. We find that in milk. Riboflavin, niacin. You have vitamin B1, B2, B3, B6, B9, B12, pantothenic acid, and biotin. Those are all B complex vitamins, and vitamin C. Those are your water soluble vitamins. Sorry, guys. So and then fat soluble vitamins. They actually are stored in the body and to be utilized. That would be vitamin A, which is important for your eyes and your skin. Vitamin D. If we don't have vitamin D, we cannot absorb calcium. Vitamin E and vitamin K. Vitamin K is very important for clotting processes. So let's talk a little bit about the B vitamins, because our B vitamins are very important, but tend to be something that we lack a lot and tend to cause some types of anemia. B1 or thiamine, it's really important in carbohydrate metabolism, and it's essential for normal metabolism for the nervous system, the heart, and the muscles. Thiamine promotes good appetite, and it's found in lean porks, wheat germ, lean meats, and egg yolks and fish. A deficiency can cause a loss of appetite, irritability, fatigue, sleep disturbance, nervous system disorders, loss of coordination, and even paralysis. It is very important. It can also, when someone is an alcoholic, they tend to have vitamin B deficiencies that can cause significant issues. Vitamin B2, which is also called riboflavin, it's essential for enzymes. It's essential for certain enzyme systems in the metabolism process of fats and protein. So B2 is important for the protein for fats and protein absorption. It is sensitive to light. So most of the time when you buy a B complex vitamin or a B vitamin that you would take, it's in a dark bottle and it tells you to keep it away from sunlight. It can be found in milk, cheddar cheese, cottage cheese, organ meats, eggs. Deficiency can cause impaired growth, weakness, lip sores, and cracks in the corners of the mouth. Photophobia, so difficulty with seeing light, cataracts, anemia, and so riboflavin is very important. Now, the thing that always cracks me up is riboflavin that is found in milk. It breaks down when it's exposed to sunlight. What is milk in? Milk is in a clear plastic container, and it's usually sitting in the refrigerator at the store with light on it. Now, in your home refrigerator, when the door is closed, there's no light. The light is it's exposed to light when you open the refrigerator door. I always find that interesting that it's not in a darker container. Now, for a long time, when I was a kid, milk came in, and I don't know, and it still does now in school or some schools. It comes in a carton, a milk carton, so that prevented exposure to light. There were years when my children were in school, they've been out of school 10 years, that it came in a clear plastic bag that you poked a hole in, like a juice ball, like a Capri Sun juice bag, but it was clear. So they don't do that anymore, which is good to help protect that riboflavin. Then there's vitamin B3, which is niacin. It is part of two enzymes that regulate energy metabolism. Niacin is also called um, nicotinic acid, and it is really important for cardiac health, skin health. It's really important to the digestive system. It's found in lean meats, fish, poultry, and peanuts. Deficiency can cause gastrointestinal disturbances and mental disturbances. So it can cause the brain not to function the way it should. Vitamin B6, it aids in enzyme production and in the synthesis of amino acids. So B6 is important for amino acid production, and it is essential for proper growth and maintenance. Of body functions. It's found in yeast, wheat germ, pork, bananas, and oatmeal. Deficiency can cause anemia, neuritis, anorexia, nausea, depression, immunity issues, depression of the immune system, and dermatitis, so itching of the skin. Vitamin B9 or folic acid. Folic acid is very important not only to your health but to the health of an infant or someone who is pregnant. Very important for brain production in a growing fetus. Its function in formation of it's really important for hemoglobin. It aids in the metabolism of proteins. It is, like I said, essential for fetal development of the brain, of the neural tubules. It's found in liver, kidney beans, lima beans, fresh, dark, leafy green vegetables, and it's also added to many cereals. Deficiency can cause anemias, and it can also cause spina bifida in fetuses. Vitamin B12, it aids in hemoglobin synthesis, and it's essential for normal function of all cells. It's important for energy metabolism. It's found in liver, kidney beans, milk, egg, fish, and cheese. Deficiency can cause anemia and neurological disorders. Panthenoic acid is another B complex, another water soluble vitamin. It's part of the B complex that is essential for fatty acid metabolism and the manufacturing of testosterone and of estrogen and progesterone. It helps utilize, and it also helps the utilization of other vitamins. The function of the nervous system, the adrenal glands, and normal growth and development for a young person. It's found in egg yolks, liver, kidney, and liver from meats, and in yeast. Deficiency can cause fatigue, headache, nausea, abdominal pain, numbness and tingling of the arms, of the fingers, hands, and toes, muscle cramps, and susceptibility to respiratory infections and peptic ulcer disease. So you see how throughout all of these, when we talk about nutrients, these vitamins and minerals, how important these water-soluble vitamins are to the immune system. Biotin is one that most girls are knowledgeable about because of how it affects growth of hair, skin, and nails. But it's also important for the breakdown of fatty acids and carbohydrates, and helps the body gets rid of waste and break down proteins as needed. It's important. It's important for the skin and hair as well. A good source is kidney, liver, egg yolk, soybeans, and yeast. Those are good sources of biotin. Vitamin C is another thing that's very important for our immune system. It helps protect the body against infections. It helps to heal wounds. The best source comes from fruits and vegetables, especially citrus fruits and tomatoes. Deficiency can cause scurvy, Low resistance to infection, joint tenderness, it can cause your teeth to break down, bleeding gums, delayed wound healing, excessive bruising, bleeding, and anemia. Vitamin C is lost in the cooking of fresh fruits and vegetables. But not when you cook them but not in cooking frozen foods. So when you cook fresh, um, like when you cook a fresh tomato or you cook citrus fruits into things, you lose that vitamin C. So they're natural inorganic substances. We've kind of talked about how important they are to carry out major functions, and they are needed in larger quantities because they are water soluble. I want to talk a minute about fat soluble vitamins. So that would be vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Vitamin A, or retinol, is very important for the skin. It's necessary for normal growth and development and reproduction of cells. It's found in liver, beef, sweet potatoes, spinach, milk, and egg yolks. Deficiency can cause delayed growth, susceptibility to infection, skin issues, night blindness, and abnormal gastrointestinal functions. So it's really important. Dry mucous membranes. So it's and changes in the spinal cord. So vitamin A is very important. Vitamin D, once again, is essential for the absorption and reabsorption of calcium. There are two major forms of vitamin D: vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. They come from plants, milk, from the skin being exposed to light or other ultraviolet radiation. You can find it in dairy products, butter, cream, milk. It also can be found in fish oils, liver, and egg yolks. Deficiency can cause rickets and osteomalacia. Osteomalacia means bone softening. Vitamin E is an antioxidant that is important to prevent oxidative destruction of vitamin A. So, vitamin E is essential to vitamin A, so that vitamin A is not broken down in the intestines and it's utilized appropriately. It's essential for normal reproduction and muscle development, and resistant to hemolysis or hemolyzing of your red blood cells. So red blood cell breakdown um, and from it causing clots. It's found in seed oils like nut oils, peanut oil, things like that, fruits, vegetables, and animal fats. Vitamin K is the last one of the fat soluble vitamins, and it is very important to for the clotting process in the body. There are several fat soluble vitamin compounds of vitamin K. Vitamin K2 synthesized in the intestines by bacteria. It's also found in animal fats. Vitamin K is found in large amounts in green leafy vegetables, such as broccoli, cabbage, and lettuce, and in other fruits. And it's given as an antidote for an overcoagulation. So people who are on Coumadin, if their Coumadin level if their blood gets too thin, we can give them vitamin K to help with the clotting process. Also, vitamin K is essential for if you have a cut, for that to clot, the bleeding to clot. Deficiency it can cause bleeding. So trace minerals are needed in small amounts. So we talk about vitamins and minerals. Minerals are important though, even though we only need them in small amounts. They're very important for maintaining tissue, building and maintaining tissue, and carrying out normal life functions. They are important for absorption in the intestines. They are major minerals are needed in larger quantities, and some of those major minerals that we need every day are calcium, iodine, magnesium, selenium, zinc, iron, and phosphorus. So we know that calcium is important for bone maintenance. It's also important for muscle muscle movement to prevent muscle cramping and muscle weakness. Iodine is very important, though we don't need a large amount of it. Iodine is important for metabolism. It helps the thyroid work appropriately. Magnesium is important for to help prevent strong bones and to help promote strong bones and teeth. It also helps in activation of many enzymes. It helps regulate the heartbeat and muscle tone, and for the metabolism, like I said, of many enzyme processes. We find magnesium mainly in magnesium is broken down and excreted through the kidneys. Selenium is very important for the eyes and for maintenance of muscle and of tissue. Zinc is very important for healing. We find zinc very often in fish and fish oils. Iron is important for red blood cell production. Phosphorus is essential for the metabolism of protein, calcium, and glucose. It helps build strong bones and teeth. Phosphorus is found in dairy foods, or animal fats, and animal products, fish, cereals, nuts, and legumes. So we just need to be sure that we understand and know those essential recommended daily. That is recommended that we have those minerals on a daily basis. Water. Now, water is one of the most essential things for a body. We can live 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. So we cannot survive long without water. About anywhere from 55 to 65% of the adult body, depending on age, is made up of water. Its function is to maintain fluid balance. It helps maintain lubrication in moving parts, so it helps with that synovial fluid in the knees, the elbows, all of our joints. It's important for digestion and for chemical reactions and for transportation of nutrients. It's also important for secretion of waste products. It helps get rid of things that we don't need. And it regulates body temperature. So water is very important to the body. When the body becomes dehydrated, we have significant issues. Fluid balance, we should take in equal amounts. So when we have patients that we take care of, we got to take in the same amount of food that we get rid of. And by taking in fluids and our intake and output being equal, that means our kidneys are functioning appropriately. Now, when our intake and output is not what we need it to be, that could be that we are out maybe in the heat, or our body's having to hold on to fluid for some reason. It's very important that we explain the importance of getting the correct amount of water, and that they understand sources of water. Water is not just, we don't get water just from drinking bottled water or tap water. We get water from foods as well. So like if we put someone on a clear liquid diet, then popsicles and Jell-O and soups, they all have water. When we intake water, we also have to maintain our electrolyte balance. Sodium is very important for fluid and acid-base balance. The fluid and acid-base balance is what keeps our body functioning at all times. Maintaining the normal homeostatic condition in the body, inside and outside the cells, is essential. When we don't have the right electrolytes, when we don't have the right sodium, potassium, and chloride, then and calcium, then those electrolytes prevent our body from functioning appropriately. Potassium maintains muscle contraction, fluid and electrolyte balance. So those things are very important today to just our own function. And remember that your heart is a muscle. So if potassium and sodium levels are off, even your heart is not functioning appropriately. Chloride, sodium and chloride go together. So those three elements, they go to those three electrolytes. They are very important for the maintenance of hydrochloric acid and our fluid and electrolyte balance. Antioxidants are chemical agents that help neutralize free radicals. Those are things that are produced by, they're kind of a byproduct of things that we intake or of normal metabolism that our body can't do anything with. So those antioxidants actually break that down. All right, so the bulk of our stool comes from fiber. Good. Tissue repair. Important for tissue repair would be proteins. Excessive storage of glycogen and fat. That comes from excessive carbohydrates. Concentrated energy source. That would be lipids. Produced by the liver. That would be cholesterol. No caloric value. That would be water. There's no calories in water. Neutralizes free radicals. That would be antioxidants. And formed during hemoglobin. That would be trans fat. All right, guys. So that would be a quick review of what we've learned so far. I'm going to stop there for today. We will finish nutrients tomorrow and pick up emergency production, okay, or emergency maintenance in the clinic setting.